In this video, what I'll be covering is the Service Bus functionality in Ampla 2018, and more specifically sending a message out from Ampla to an Azure Service Bus. As you can see from what's on the screen, I have the Ampla help system open. There's quite a lot of good information talking about how the Service Bus functions and how to set it up in Ampla 2018. In this video, what I'll do is I'll just do a very quick example of some config in a demo system, and then I'll show you how those messages come across into the Azure Service Bus, and also the use of another tool there that we can use to help debug the setup of this connection. So if we take a look in the Ampla configuration and see what we have to do to get this connection up and running, you can see here that what I have is a demo project. If I go into the system configuration and go into the integrations folder, you can see here that I again have my webhooks, service bus and insight connector. So I want to go into the service bus folder there, and I have events and commands. So essentially what these two folders represent is that events are allowing us to set up outgoing messages, and the commands are allowing us to set up inbound messages. So if we're pushing messages out to a service bus, we'd be using events, and then if we were receiving messages back in off a service bus, we would be using the commands and entering a new value there. So in this video, I'll look at the creation of an event and getting a message out onto the service bus, and in a later video we'll look at actually bringing one of those events back into Ampla and doing something with it. Okay, so now what we'll have a look at is the configuration of one of these events. I've already done one called prod test. It's just pushing out messages from a production reporting point, capturing data fairly frequently using a random number generator. Now when you create this outgoing event, it has three main items that need to be completed. We have a password, a URI and a username. These come from the setup of the service bus over in Azure, and we'll go and have a look at that in a moment so that we understand where those values are created and then where they get inserted back here into Ampla. Okay, so now I'm over in Microsoft Azure. I'm in my account here, and if I go to the dashboard, you can see that I've got a few of these things already set up. If I need to create a new service bus, I use the Create a Resource button at the top, and I can simply type in service bus up here, and then it returns a service bus instance that I can create, and I could select that, and then I could just step through the guide here as far as creating a service bus. So you can step through that. There's plenty of information on the web and in here that allows you to get that set up and up and running. So I already have one of those set up. So I've got an Ampla SB test service bus set up, and when I've set this service bus up, I've created two separate queues. I've got essentially an output queue, which is receiving the messages from Ampla, and then an Ampla input queue, which will be used to send messages back into Ampla. If I have a look at the output queue that I've set up, you can see here that I've been pushing messages to it already. Now what we need to do with this queue is we first need to create a security policy to allow us to interact with that queue. So you can see that I've created a policy with the name of Ampla Queue Admin and given it full permissions. And if we go in there, you can see that it's giving us a primary key for that particular policy. So I need to take that primary key as well as that Ampla Queue Admin and take that back into Ampla to set up this security here. So that Ampla Queue Admin, as you saw, the policy that I set on that output queue, and then that primary key is essentially the password for that. Okay, and then I'll show you how we go and get this URL in a moment. Okay, so now back in Azure, we can see that the Ampla output queue is what is currently selected, and Azure provides you with a queue URL, which we can see here. So we can go and get that URL. Now this is not exactly what we need in Ampla, but it's a start, and I'll show you why we need to make a little change to that when we put that into Ampla. Okay, so the URL that we'll be inserting we'll go into this space here, as you can see, but there's a subtle change as to what Azure has provided us with. We just need to change the front of the URL. So I've just put both of them into Notepad so you can see the difference. So this is what Azure provides us with. We just simply need to change the start from HTTPS to AMQPS. And once we make that change and insert that into Ampla, what we can do then is we can start that item and do a test connection, which is handy. And then what we should get is a successful test, assuming that the Ampla instance is connected to the web happily.